Hello everyone and welcome to our discussion on scenario planning. So right now we're going to be discussing about what is scenario planning and its application in businesses, including how do we do scenario planning. So in this video I'm going to just give you guys a self-introduction of myself before we actually dig into scenario planning. So my name is David Du and I'm a summer student as of June 2020 of the Wharton School's Global Youth Program. So the Wharton School, which is a business school of the University of Pennsylvania, organizes an annual Global Youth Program for high school students around the world, which include finance, leadership, sports, economics, and technology. So in this particular Wharton Global Youth Program, since we are not able to conduct this program physically in the United States, we're doing it in an online version. So I'm a student involved in this program as a year 10 student, so I'm a sophomore in my high school, although you may not call grade 10 sophomore, but basically I'm grade 10, so I'm a junior high school student and my incoming grade is grade 11, which means I'm going to be a IB student later on. I'm going to tell you about my education background in the next slide. Okay, so in this global youth program, which is an online global youth program, we are learning and we are focused around scenario planning. Because in these 2 weeks in our program, we are going to be investigating the future of the business world, which means we have to make certain predictions on the future trends. We have to understand how well economic and political situations alter in the future, especially after this COVID pandemic. So during this time, I believe this course or my discussion here in front of you on YouTube should be highly productive and meaningful because we've still been experiencing the COVID pandemic. We have a lot of cases every day. Unfortunately, we have many people lost their lives in the COVID-19 pandemic, and most significantly, we have a lot of economic depression happening around the world, economic impacts around the world. So there are a lot of changes going on, which means we have to understand how will the COVID pandemic unleash in the future. Maybe it will unleash in the future, maybe the workflow will change, maybe the technological development, political development will alter and may be impacted after COVID-19. That's why we're having this discussion here with you. I'm having this discussion with you after I've conducted my learning online to share with you the Wharton professor strategies on predicting the future and how we can ensure we try to leverage our benefits in the future in the business world. Okay, so in this video, I'm just going to give you an introduction, and the credit of this discussion from me to you guys will be Professor Esa Malik, which is a professor of innovation and entrepreneurship in the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. And I want to also give credit for this specific slideshow to Oliver Baxter and Ariana Cowley because they are 2 TED Talk speakers, and I've grabbed and kind of assembled a lot of ideas from these 2 guys, from these 2 people, great people, and I hope to give credit to 3 of them. Okay, so we'll start right away. So first of all, I want to give you an introduction to myself. So I'm David and I'm a Chinese. So although I'm Chinese, I've been living in Singapore for 5 years already. So I started living in Singapore in grade 5. And if you guys know Singapore, it is pretty small. It is a small city-state in Southeast Asia. So my neighbors are Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar. You might know about these countries. So your first impression of Singapore, maybe it is pretty hot. Yes, Singapore is a tropical nation, and we don't have any winter, spring, or autumn. All 4 seasons in the year are summer. So if you live in Singapore, you don't have to buy a jacket, you don't have to buy a hoodie, you just have to wear like a shirt. So even when I'm wearing this, I feel hot already. So air conditioning is required and highly essential in Singapore. If you're not sure how small Singapore is, I want to compare it with New York. So New York City, not New York State, Singapore is 170 times smaller than New York City. This means how small is Singapore? You can guess it. Okay, so in terms of my education, I'm a senior high school student in Singapore. So my school name is Overseas Family School. It is a K2 to grade 12 IB school in Singapore, in Eastern Singapore, and I'm now a IB student. I'm actually a grade 10 student, by the way, but like now it's summer holiday, which means in the next semester, my incoming grade will be grade 11, which means I'm entering IB. So IB means grade 11, 12, which are my senior high school years coming in the future. And Overseas Family School is an international school in Singapore. We have students from around the world. We have Chinese students, Japanese students, and the majority students are Indians. But we also have students from Western countries such as the United States. We have students from UK. We have students from Scotland. We have students from as well as from Europe, like Finland, Switzerland, Sweden, blah blah blah. So it is a pretty diverse school, but mainly we have students from Asia, which are majority are Indian students and Chinese students. And my focal subjects are business management, mathematics, and English. Why did I choose three of them? It's because I believe business is highly important in the future, especially when we combine business into a subject called business management, which is pretty different to business studies that I've been studying for grade 9 and 10. And mathematics is highly important to train our logical skills, to train our thinking, and to train our application of mathematics in finance, because I'm hugely interested in finance. And lastly, English. English is definitely important to socialize with others, to do writing, which is a skill that is necessary and important in every field. That's why my focal subjects, which are my high-level subjects, are business management, mathematics, and English. If you want to know my SL subjects, they are basically geography, chemistry, and Mandarin. Okay, so that's about my subject choice. And about where I'm from originally, I'm from Shenzhen, China. You might know the city or you might not. If you don't know about where is Shenzhen, it is basically a city near Hong Kong. Shenzhen is a new city in China, and it is we call as the tech hub of the nation. It is not only recognized by Chinese people that it is a tech hub of the nation, but also by Western media. If you go to YouTube to search about Shenzhen, you will see it is the startup nation, the startup hub of the world. Every day we have hundreds of new tech startups, entrepreneurs in our nation, and in our city of Shenzhen, and it is basically a new and technological city. Yeah, you can see the photo here. And here is Singapore, by the way, and here is Beijing. Okay. And if you know Huawei, which is a competitor who makes phone, laptops, and definitely also cars, the competitor of Apple and Samsung, Huawei is born and headquartered in Shenzhen. You might also know about Tencent, a Chinese internet service company which offers social media. If you know WeChat, which is our way of WhatsApp, like you guys in the States, and we also use Tencent also makes games and video apps. And you might know DJI if you are a huge fan of video shooting. You might be a vlogger, you might like to shoot some landscapes, you might like doing YouTube. And DJI drones are also headquartered and made in China, and it is, I think, the most popular drones company in the world. It's the most successful one. So I'm pretty proud of DJI from my city. Okay, and I speak Mandarin, English, and conversational Spanish. I've been learning Mandarin since I was born. It's my mother tongue, and I've been learning English since grade 5. And I pick up English in my school in Singapore, and since the school is only English speaking, which means I speak English in every class except for my Spanish and Mandarin class, I was able to develop my skills very fast, although I still have an accent due to my Chinese background and my life in China for 10 years. Okay, and conversational Spanish, I do speak a little bit Spanish. I'm better at writing compared to speaking, and I've been studying Spanish for 2 years. So I've been studying Spanish since grade 8. In my school here in Singapore with teachers from Argentina and teachers from Spain and France. Yeah, and my future plan is I want to major in economics or sociology because I'm kind of interested in both of these areas. And my favorite color, if you guys can see from the photo here, is actually pink. I like to wear pink shirts, and my favorite color is pink. Okay. My research interest, yes, good question. I think this is more relevant than this slide right here. And my research interest can be broken down into 4 different areas: finance, business, politics, and economics. So under finance, my favorite parts are portfolio management, which is management of investment decisions for both individuals and a corporation. How do we make risk minimized investments? How do we invest in high return investment? How do we build a portfolio? How do we combine different investment strategies, different financial instruments? How do we combine different investment pathways? So these are the studies of portfolio management, which actually is a combination of financial market study and mathematical study. So for portfolio management to work, in order to research deeply in portfolio management, I have to develop further mathematical skills and skills in finance in order to do well and be effective in my research on portfolio management. And the second area is risk management, which is highly correlated to portfolio management. That is the study of how to minimize the risk of a particular investment. And one way to accomplish risk management in a nutshell is portfolio management. Because by doing portfolio management, we are diversifying our investments into multiple financial instruments. And in this way, we are reducing our risks because we are not depending on one financial asset. So even if the market is falling down, we can, if we already bought a negatively correlated asset or weakly correlated asset, we may still earn a certain amount of money or still get a little bit of our capital while we are making loss on another investment. So that is about my interest in finance research. Okay, and in terms of business research, I'm mainly focused on supply chain management. So I'm hugely interested in the learning of supply chain management, which is a process of creating value through the value chain, which starts from the supplier and ends at the distributor and the customer. Okay, and supply chain management, although it is basically a study of, I mentioned before, the value chain, but it is a huge area as well. So within supply chain management, there's managerial aspect and technical aspects. The technical aspect is mostly involved in programming, in statistics, and I haven't go too deep into this area of study. And my main research areas are strategies and innovations. Okay, so try to see how can we innovate and how do we tackle a globalized supply chain, how do we manage the globalized supply chain, and what are some strategies that we can apply to coordinate a supply chain for it to create value effectively. So this is my main area of research within supply chain management, and still it is relatively new to me. I started this in 2020. Okay, and my second research under business nutrition is psychology, business psychology, and organizational behaviors. Please don't think I'm an expert in psychology. I'm not. I'm not a person who knows psychology very well, but I do research on business psychology. So business psychology, of course, you can derive from the word, it is psychology. But it is only the psychology within your business, which is the psychological studies of your employees, of the workers and the stakeholders within the business. So if you guys have studied business and economics, you may know about stakeholders, which can include managers, employees, and can be environmental agencies, can be the government. And the stakeholders, when we study the psychology, we are trying to find out how can we satisfy them the best. While we can also coordinate between our benefits, our beneficiaries. So psychology, the study as a whole is basically to study how humans think and why we think in these ways. But in the business context, psychology is basically the same thing, but we're studying why do certain stakeholders think in this way. What do the stakeholders want? How can we increase the efficiency of our cooperation, of our employees? How can we coordinate between our stakeholders, between the government, between our managers, between our other beneficiaries within our stakeholders circle? So this is the study of business psychology. As well, I'm also researching on organizational behaviors, which is also highly linked to business psychology, which is the study of how can we coordinate various departments of our business well. How do we increase efficiency? How do we transfer the skills of employees from the cognitive aspect to behavioral aspect? This is also linked to supply chain management. Because in supply chain management, we are working with suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, marketing workers, and service providers, and customers. We have to ensure we are coordinating and we understand what do they want. We have to understand how to coordinate as well. So we have to analyze their behaviors and think about how, in terms of a monetarily and in terms of incentives, in terms of a managerial aspect, in terms of a strategic aspect, can we boost the behaviors of our members of our supply chain and members of our organization. So organizational behaviors is hugely important to kind of develop efficiency in your business, to kind of turn your ideas, your skills, your capabilities into reality. It is pretty difficult. That's why I mentioned just now, we're starting from a cognitive part, which means employees may understand what do we want to do. Employees may understand the corporate culture. Employees may understand the goals. But how do they implement this cognitive understanding into reality, into the so-called from cognitive to behavioral aspect? This is definitely an important study that can go simple to deep. Okay? And in terms of politics, so political studies you might see not very important in our scenario planning, which is a business school subject, but definitely politics is hugely involved in scenario planning, which you will see later on when I discuss the STEEP STEEP model, social, technological, economical, environmental, political model. You're going to see why it's important that politics can be infused and have to be taken into account when we learn scenario planning. This is because politics are the center of regulations. Government do make regulation. In our world, governments do play a part. No matter you are like me from a socialist nation, whether you are from a communist socialist nation, whether you are from a capitalist nation, you have to learn about politics, and you have to be able to analyze politics and do scenario planning on politics in order to see how can politics interconnect other factors when you make a certain prediction on the trend. For instance, politics can hugely impact microeconomics and macroeconomics. This is because regulations can change the economic conditions, they can decide on the welfare of a society, and they can also decide how private business will run in a nation. So politics is actually the center of scenario planning and business activities. However, from my research, although I'm also interested in global politics, which means I do study about US politics, I'm interested in Canadian politics, I also do look at Spanish politics, I look at politics from various places, but in terms of my research interest, which means something that I have been researching more deeper into it, I'll basically research on politics around my nation, China. So my main research is focused on cross-strait relations. So the strait basically refers to the sea between a PRC, China, and Taiwan, Republic of China. So I really study a lot and do a lot of research around PRC and Taiwan's relationship in terms of how do we boost economic relationships between mainland China and Taiwan, how do we ameliorate this relationship, how do we promote welfare between PRC and Taiwan while we're able to let political systems work independently like Hong Kong and China. But we want China to work still under a socialist society, and we want Taiwan to cooperate with China and maintain a well relationship while it can still maintain its democratic society, if you guys know about it. So this is my research on cross-strait relations. I don't want to go too deep because that's not really related to the concept of a general scenario planning. And the second area is political structure of China, which you can also refer to a sociology study, which is China studies. So I basically focus on socialism, capitalism, and communism, socialism, and histories of politics in China. So you guys may find it interesting. You can look at it as well, starting from the Cultural Revolution to our modernized development, from our free market, from Hong Kong back to China, from China's current socialism with Chinese characteristics proposed and implemented by our new leaders of the nation. Okay, and the last area of research, which is the area that I find most rewarding, is economics. So in economics research, we have a lot of topics such as inequality. We also have income wealth. We have a microeconomics, we have a market economics, something like that. And political economics as well, linked to politics. But my area of research, I mainly focus on three different parts. First of all is economic growth. In terms of how do we develop our economy through trade, through workforce planning, through microeconomic forces, through policy changes, through freeing regulations. And the second area is employment and wealth. How do we ensure employment in our society? Is it possible? So this part can be linked to politics. How is it possible to develop a socialized democratic society and to develop our employment opportunities and wealth as well? And my third area is inequalities and poverty, which is areas to study the lower class of our society, of our world, to see how can we liberate these people out of poverty as we develop our market in the future. Okay, so I find inequality and poverty research to be interesting and rewarding, while it is also fairly complex, because in the world there's always inequality and poverty. So by looking at this concept, we can't derive any research, but if we go deep, we can find out that there are actually possibilities, such as re-regulating our policies, such as providing more opportunities, such as turning our society into a bit of socialist society, turning a few elements into socialist, such as national health care of the United Kingdom, such as free health care in Canada, to kind of compromise and come up with a system that will remain this rich people's welfare, remain this rich people's freedom, while we can try to develop or try to lessen the disparity of wealth and poverty of a particular nation. I mean equality and poverty of the world. Okay, so this is my research interest. And lastly, I want to show you some projects I did, which you can look up after in my LinkedIn. I'll put the link below. So for projects I've been doing these 5 projects. First of all, I focused on Greater Bay Area, and second one, I did technical notes on corporate finance. Thirdly, I talked about the managerial strategic perspective of supply chain management. And the fourth project is focused on the market risk model for portfolio management in finance. And the fifth model is application of big data analytics in Mandarin, which I did in Mandarin. Okay, in businesses, which I did in Mandarin. Okay, so these are my projects. So this is all about this video. So I've been giving a short introduction to myself, and in the next video, we're going to be starting with why scenario planning. Okay, so thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.